Soon all of us will have special names. Names designed to cause the cathode ray tube to resonate.
So why do Melee players still use those old box TVs? The short answer is that HDTVs process video input and then it outputs it via various methods depending on the TV, usually LEDs. This can take a fraction of a second, but in a game where moves come out in even smaller fractions, this is important. Cathode ray tubes give you the raw output with no processing and displays it as fast as possible, line by line. These are known as scan lines. The CRT outputs these scan lines faster than we can perceive them, and we just get a full picture with minimal input lag. Now, for the real answer. For most Melee players, the cathode ray tube television is something we tend to take for granted. Nowadays we have monitors that can display 4K Ultra HD at 240Hz, with gecko codes and HDMI converters that allow us to play virtually lagless monitor Melee. It can cost $50 to even throw away CRTs legally, and Goodwill no longer sells or accepts them. It seems even the places that take goods unwanted by society don't even want these huge TVs. Despite this, we persist in our belief of their necessity. It's not uncommon to find these old pieces of technology discarded on the side of the road, with people begging for someone to take them. Unbeknownst to them, they are putting to the side of the road one of the most beautiful and revolutionary pieces of technology of the modern age. One that is priceless to many people with rather esoteric hobbies. If you aren't quite convinced, get ready and vamonos, and let's learn why Melee players truly still use the cathode ray television.
She just stomped on the platform. Tried to hit the knee afterwards too. He went for it. I got roll there.
Nice. I got my first CRT from my grandma, and it's probably a similar story to how you got yours. It's Genesis 3 and I just started playing Smash 4, and it's time to watch my first Super Major, and I'm more excited than ever. But I'm watching Top 8, and I'm just incredibly bored. I sit through it, but when it's over, I find myself unsatisfied. But there's more. Super Smash Bros. Melee. They bring out these huge TVs, put them on the table, and end up staying till 3 AM cheering for some person never heard of named after a fruit. The next day I called my grandma and asked her if she still had the CRT that I watched Cartoon Network on every night when I stayed over. She said yes, and that was the day that I learned how to wave dash. I still have this CRT. Players from around my state, the country, and the world have all played on it. Most players don't think about the fact that when they go to a local and play on a CRT, they're playing on a CRT with a rich history, and that every CRT is a special little all-star. It's an integral part of somebody, a piece that traveled with them more than almost anybody else, something they sat in front of for hundreds of hours, proving their devotion to the craft. When you walk into a tournament venue, you're greeted with a community-made museum of a lot of people's most prized possession, all with stories as rich as your own. I spent a majority of my high school years alone with few friends and no weeklies to go to, but the many dark nights I spent with my CRT brought me so much joy. Now this CRT is with me in the best of times. I bring this CRT across the country to see sprawling cities for the first time with me. It was with me when I moved to my first ever college dorm room, and most importantly, to my weeklies, where the friends I never had in high school play the game we all love on it. In many ways, I'm the CRT, cast aside, only to be picked up by a community that values me for what I believe I was meant to do. Much like a person, every CRT has drastically different lives. My CRT has been to different places than yours, or Mango's, or Björk's.
You shouldn't let poets lie to you.
The life of a Melee CRT gets to see the highs and lows of competitions, the stunning victories, and the brutal defeats. It's no secret that all CRTs aren't created equal. You have your PVMs that make you feel like royalty, and others that make you feel like garbage. While doing my research for this video, I read an article about how many CRTs fell on kids, injuring them severely or even fatally. I also learned that CRTs emit small amounts of ionizing radiation that can cause health issues. It made me conflicted about even posting this video. I had an existential crisis. How can I justify posting a video romanticizing something like this? It took me a couple days to make the realization that while CRTs have caused harm, they have caused infinitely more joy. This reminds me of a game I like to play, called Melee.
Cliff, what are you going to take away as your best memory from playing basketball at Boston College?
Probably just like going out to eat.
When Jmook won Genesis 9, 1,250 other players lost. 769 players didn't win a single set. Melee is filled with infinitely more losers than winners. The person writing this is a loser. The person watching this could be a loser. But that entirely depends on your definition of losing. For every player going 0-2, there's another player asking them if they would like to go get food before top 8 starts. For every heartbreaking Game 5 loss, there's 100 more players sitting down in a CRT, playing with a complete stranger, and talking to each other like they've known each other their whole life. Every missed ledge dash will be kindly consoled by a carpool full of people you couldn't imagine your life without, that you would have never met without your CRT. If victory is the only true goal, why would anybody in their right mind choose one of the hardest games ever made to pursue it? In his book, The Great Good Place, Ray Oldenburg discusses the concept of a third place. He suggests that our first and second places, being our home and our work, are not sufficient social environments for us humans. We're there out of obligation, out of survival. The third place, Oldenburg claims, is the pinnacle of human experience. In order for something to be considered a third place, it must fit a few criteria. It has to be neutral ground and open to everybody. Your status can't matter. Conversation and social aspects are a primary focus. There needs to be regular attendees to foster a community, and they need to feel like a welcoming and unimposing public home. This is generated by a sense of shared ownership. Melee fits all these criteria. Its only barrier being your entry fee. Your weekly attendees eventually become your family. The venue becomes a home, and the collective community effort of providing our own setups creates this sense of shared ownership. As cities are becoming more unwalkable, everything is being commoditized or being shifted online. The downfall of third places has been hitting humans harder and harder every day for the last 40 years.
Let's just focus on peace, all right? Let's focus on enjoying Melee, living in peace. And let's try to ignore the threat of violence from Nintendo. Try to insulate ourselves and not participate in those systems and spread fear through our community, which is striving to live in peace and not in conflict. Okay? Thank you. It does. It all ties back to Melee. It all ties back to Melee. I'm here because of Melee. That's the only reason.
Since this began, TV shows like Cheers have served as a surrogate third space. Patrons of Cheers would interact regardless of their social status. And here, folks as unremarkable as Norm are met with thunderous applause upon their entrance to the room.
Afternoon, everybody.
Norman?
How's life, Norm? Not for the squeamish, Coach.
There's a reason why Melee has survived for so long. Forming in the homes of others, in various card shops, bars, and university classrooms, Melee has always been an in-person experience. Our culture was fundamentally built around fostering an IRL community. When you go to a Melee tournament, there's an unsaid social agreement. While we still have a long way to go before we all have a totally perfect environment, specifically for women and queer smashers, we all subconsciously understand the third place and the environment needed to maintain Melee's community. There's a reason everybody stares at the drop of a controller, why Salt compilations are so popular, and why nobody will ever be mean to you for being bad. These are all breaches of this 2-decade-old pact.
Melee is a dope game, and Melee teaches us certain things just by participating in it. Just by participating in Melee, I believe that it's brought all of us to learn that we need to care about each other, come together in community, but also competitively. Don't hurt each other. Capitalism, just by existing in it, I believe it teaches us certain things. And it teaches us to look out for number one. It teaches us that other people are truly our enemy. It makes us internalize this idea about functioning and how, like, the system is inherently good, right? But the system, its power and its logic comes from the almighty dollar. But I believe that in Melee, we learn to be responsive to each other, and the system will change if it is hostile towards the individuals. For example, when I played Melee back in 2006, 2007, 2008, we used to call Sheik players gay. We used to use all kinds of words that made the community unsafe. For people like Prague, for example, who we fucking love. And when we learned that those gamer words made the environment hostile to people who we loved, the community changed. The community changed. In capitalism, when we learn that individuals, that the environment's hostile to individuals, it doesn't change. That's how this all connects, in my opinion.
The feeling you get as you walk down an unfamiliar hallway, nervous that you can't find the venue, and the wave of relief that crashes down on you as you hear the clacks of a game controller and see the heavy, borderline deadly archaic televisions that you won't see anywhere else is all the proof you need that Melee is a third place. At a Melee tournament, you're a different person with an identity you can shape. It's a chance for us to be norm. It's how an unassuming person from Sweden became a god, and how local O2 Falcon mains get their chance to be their own protagonist. CRTs are the signature on the Melee social contract. We use monitors to do our work, HDTVs to watch movies, but we only use CRTs to play Melee. We don't own them out of obligation. We own them out of dedication. Melee players still use CRTs because we need them more than they need us.